Okay, welcome back to the Give Back. We're here with Wayne Gates this week. Very excited to have our MPP, who is responsible for Niagara Falls, Niagara on the Lake, and Fort Erie. I can't imagine all that brings, but I know it makes you a very busy man. We were both watching your support of the PSWs recently, and your passion doesn't go unnoticed, and we appreciate all you do. And it's great to have you on. So Isaac and I both have some background with Wayne. There's some things I'm sure we'll talk about today that we didn't know about you. And you're a champion of many great causes. And you've put Niagara on your back for a long time now. So Wayne, just welcome to the Give Back.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it. Brad, you did mention the fact that we go back a long time.
Yeah.
I remember when Brad was like 3 feet tall, and now look,
I was one.
The whole family is pretty big now,
Yeah.
and growing up, and so we go back just as friends through your dad, Gary. Almost 40 years.
Has it been that long?
It's been that long.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been friends that long. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's hard
It's a
to
long
think
time.
back.
Yeah,
very
yeah.
long time.
Well, it shows that in particular in the labor movement, it doesn't happen very often. Like usually, once you get undefeated or get defeated, people forget who you are. Quite frankly, and they just
Yeah.
move on to the next person. Where me and Gary, and I can tell we didn't always agree. As you know, we didn't always agree. But the one thing that we always did was keep our friendship.
Yeah.
Through all those times. So it's I think. The relationship I have with your dad and with the family is pretty special.
I think that's something that you have though. That's really unique to you though. You have the ability that I don't think a lot of people have to be able to have arguments, debates. It's part of your job and not feel that extreme sense of like personal, like that extreme sense of personality within having that debate. You can take yourself out of it. Like, has that something that you've learned to do, or was that something that you've sort of always had, just business is business, and let's just keep
Kind
it
of
at
like a
that?
safe arguing space where you're about to argue and you do your best to stay level-headed.
Well, I think it came. I'll be honest. It came when I became president. I wasn't always like that. Trust me. I was a back shift committee person, so I was a different type of individual. But once I got into a position of leadership, I would have those discussions with like upper management, or even sometimes with the bargaining team, or even at ratifications. And when it was all said and done, I would say, speaker on mic 1, and they'd go and very passionate on how they feel, or speaker on mic 2. And then when it was all said and done, I agree with you 100%. It was over. You move on, and you don't lose that friendship. You respect their opinion.
Yep.
But you move on. And I think from being the president of the local union, I kind of grew into that role and that mindset that, listen, not everybody's going to like what you do, and not everybody's going to like what you bring back, particularly in bargaining.
Yeah.
And but you have to respect their opinion that this is how they see it, this is how you see it, and have your differences, but move on after. And like I said, me and his dad had many a fight over different issues, but it was forgotten the next day.
And they were constructive because things were said that needed to be said, right? There wasn't holding back. There wasn't having to hide yourself or cower away in the corner. Having those really hard arguments are so important that a lot of younger people really aren't doing nowadays because of that pre-programming like we talked about before. And so it is nice to see and hear that, that still happens, because I think that part of it gets to an area where like you're like, okay, the goal is here. The goal is so evidently here that nothing outside of that can sort of distort the reality of that goal, right? And I think that just takes years to learn. And I think that you've been fortunate with being able to self-actualize those and learn from those and be able to be who you are now, because obviously it's worked for you,
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. Brad doesn't know this story.
Uh-oh.
So when I became president, I was never supposed to win to be president. I didn't belong to a caucus. I ran on my own. It was unheard of in the labor movement. And Gary ran at the same time. So when I got elected, you then all of a sudden, which you never did on midnight shift, trust me, CHCH wasn't coming to do an interview with you, or CBC wasn't coming in. Well, Gary, I would do the interview. They'd mic me up like you done today, and I would say whatever the issue was, right? And then Gary would say, well, if you tried this or you did this a little better, it'd be a lot better interview for you. So we actually learned on the job together. And his dad was the one that would say, no, Wayne, you're better if you did this, or this might be helpful. And through working together like that and becoming friends, it was never about who's in front of the camera. It was that was my role at that time. But Gary didn't just say, well, you're doing it, go ahead.
Because you both had that, that goal alignment, right?
That's right. Yeah. He said, listen, we're here to represent, our members and our retirees. And I want you to look good when you're in front of the thing because it looks good for all of us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. That's his dad played a role in that, when you talk about friendships and, going back 40 years, whatever. It
kind of makes sense. Sometimes like my dad's a little bit, he's pretty good with words, but he doesn't like to speak out. He's not really one for the mic and that kind of thing, but he can polish things up and can kind of think critically and look at them and look at what can sound better and come off better and might be heard better and you might receive better too.
And he was a good writer, by the way.
He is, yeah. I think I get that from him.
Very good writer. Yeah, you're a good writer too.
Yeah. Well, I went for English Lit and he'd always say, "I wish I was the writer you are." And I'm like, did I get that from you? Because like, how does that happen? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then my mom would say, your dad used to write me many a letter and that kind of thing. So I think sometimes that preparatory work and that writing, which I'm sure, I know you have help with in politics, but I'm sure you do your own and it has to make sense to you and you have to believe in it. So I think that when you're looking down at those words and you believe in them, it shows up on camera too, right?
Well, I'm a little different. I'm not a great writer.
Right.
I've never been a great writer. But what I do is, to your point, I follow my passion. I think that's, if I give any advice to young people or anybody, follow your passion. Sometimes you're going to fail on the way. Follow your passion. So when I get up and speak at Queen's Park, which I do quite regularly, if you follow me on any of my social media, what I'm saying that I put down on the paper in points, I'm very passionate about. I believe in a publicly funded healthcare system. I believe in making sure we protect the Greenbelt. I believe that seniors should live in a little bit of better times than they are now with affordability. I believe in that stuff. So when I speak, a lot of times, even when I was in the labor movement, that passion will come out. So I don't like to read speeches. I prefer to just, like we're doing here today.
And it feels like work less when you're passionate about it, right?
It's what I'm doing today isn't work. It's about trying to find a way to make life better for not only myself and our generation, but for my kids and my grandkids. I've told you I have 5 grandkids, so it's going to be their generation. It's why I fight so hard for the environment, because what am I going to leave them if they can't drink the water or they can't breathe the air? So
what legacy would be left for them? Right?
Exactly.
And you know what? Your voice is built and forgotten, right? So if you're not maintaining it and you're not using that voice and you're not passionate about it, it'll fall forgotten. And you've done such a great job of carrying and championing those causes each time you're with a separate group, and the passion has come in its in volumes, and you can see it each time. And I think if you let it go, let's be honest here, if you took a 4-year hiatus and we didn't see passionate Wayne, it might be tough to bring him back in the limelight. But I think that people have seen you do this so long that there's trust built in that. And when I see you, like you said, arguing a point, whether it be in Toronto or in Ottawa, I'm tuned in, and it's very inspiring, and I think that you stick to certain causes, and the causes that you find are, I think, attainable, doable, relative to Niagara, relative to now and the future, and that will have the greatest impact. Or you look at, you tend to look at the people that are facing the biggest injustice while doing their job well. Do you mind speaking on that a little bit?
Well, that's interesting. I certainly believe that my role as an MPP in Niagara is to be a strong voice for people that don't have a voice. And like talked a little bit about seniors, that they're struggling today. A lot of people don't realize just how much our seniors are struggling around affordability, can't afford to pay their rents. I said today or yesterday that in Fort Erie, for a 1-bedroom apartment for a senior, there's a 13-year wait list.
Wow.
Think about that. And they come to our office, and I know Quinn's here watching, but they come to our office, they physically break down crying because they can't afford groceries today. Yet that same company, the Weston company in Loblaws, is making $1 million a day. Yet seniors in our community, not just Niagara, but right across Ontario, can't afford to
because
eat.
their future is an absolute blur, right?
Yeah.
How's it going to go? I have no idea. How am I going to do this? And it's all met with question marks and with fear and not with answers, because you keep turning to people and you keep not getting answers. And I think that one thing you do really well is you keep on that task of driving for those answers, and I commend you for that. And how do you stay on task sometimes when it feels like, because I know it takes a while to get what you want, or to try and impact change. And let's just say we're talking about the green belt. Let's just say we're talking about more progressive outcomes for seniors. Like, that could be quite a journey for you. So how do you find, like, do you kind of, how do you look at that when that could take a while for you, and how, like, when the progress is slow, maybe slow and steady, or sometimes not at all?
Well, I'll give you an example, I guess, on never giving up. Can I tell a story? Is it okay to tell a story? I'm not really sure.
Anything
about
and
that.
everything, yeah.
Please.
So when I moved to the Niagara Falls, at that time I was president of my local union. But when I came to the Falls, and I said, you know what, I didn't like the direction that politics was in the Falls. Quite frankly, I had some problems with the fact that they were looking at getting rid of a ward system here in Niagara Falls. So I decided to put my name forward. Never ran for office before. And so I said, you know what, I can't be out here criticizing or saying, I'm a strong voice, I should do something, without putting my name forward. So I did that. And I only lived in the Falls maybe a year. I actually moved to the Falls. You'll like this story, because my wife was Italian. We lived in St. Catharines for a little bit. And then I didn't realize that when you marry an Italian, they have to be within 2 blocks of the entire family.
Oh, yeah.
I had
prereq.
Is that a thing?
Oh, that is a prerequisite for sure.
It's a prerequisite. So that's how I ended up in the Falls. So then I ran. But you know what happened is I ran, I lost. But I always ran with the same passion, the same message, and and at that time, I'm going back, it was about young people, making sure they can get an education, make sure post-secondary education is affordable and in some cases paid for, making sure that we kept the shops in our schools. All those things are things that I ran. Well, you know what? You talk about not giving up, and this is probably a good message if young people are listening. Follow your passion, don't give up. You know how many times I ran? I ran as an MP, I ran as an MPP, I ran as regional council, I ran as a city council. Do either one of you know how many times I lost? Go ahead, take a guess. It's open mic time. Go ahead,
6.
guess.
I'm going to say 2.
Okay, I lost 7 times.
Wow.
7 times. That meant I went back to the old same people.
That many of my votes didn't work, eh?
and yeah, it was your dad and your mom that, I'd asked them for $100, and they were getting to a point where they're saying, are you ever going to win? Because, we don't have this much money, right? But at the end of the day, I ended up getting elected as a city councilor. But it took me 7 times. But I continued. I had the same message, always the same message. And as it went along, people started to, see the face, hear the voice, and say, maybe he's making a little more sense. I finally got elected.
Yeah.
And then I went for this job, MPP, and now we've done extremely well over the last 4 elections. We get about 50% of the vote all the time.
Yeah.
And I think people realize that I believe that we bring a strong voice for them. They come to my office. PSA testing for prostate. I put a bill for it. The Conservatives turned it down just last week. Whereas we know that if we catch PSA or prostate cancer early, the survival rate is 90%.
Yeah.
Yet if you don't, survival rate goes down to 20%. And only men can get prostate cancer, or those that have a prostate. And so those type of things I did 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And guess what? I just did it again. I don't give up. So to your point, you can say, well, they're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I keep bringing it forward, because as I bring it forward, guess what happens? It gets covered in the paper again. It's getting the education out there to men. Go get tested. Yeah, you may have to pay for it because the Conservative government disagree with, if your doctor says to go get a cut, it should be covered by OHIP. It would save money. It would save lives. So to your point, sometimes it is a little frustrating to say, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Why are we allowing men to die? Like today, as we're doing this interview, 5 men will die of prostate cancer today.
That's unbelievable.
So why would you not cover it by OHIP? If it's covered by OHIP, the test is $9.70. If you go to Life Labs, it's $35 to $52. So the cost to have the program for the entire program is $3 million. You would save $60 million in healthcare costs. So when you take a look at, you'd save men's lives, right? You'd save the healthcare system. The cost is really small. Why would you do that? So to your point, does it get frustrating that they're not seeing that? It does a bit, but you just have to keep bringing it forward, because every time I bring it forward, guess what people are talking about? They're getting educated. I didn't know that. I didn't know that if I just get the
even
test
when
done,
we see
save
you and
lives.
the answer for the time being is a no, we know what the question was.
Yes.
Right? We know what you've been asking for, right? And that's so big.
The weirder thing is it's just so that's a shocking statistic. I had no idea about that at all. And I think it's one of the hardest things about your job is having the immense amount of information and then going, how can I pallet it to the public? How do you find has been one of your most effective ways to just really get through to just the community, just everyday folks, and just being able to sort of hear what you have to say, get the word out?
I think the most important thing is listening. I think a lot of the issues that I raise on a daily basis come from constituents in my riding, whether that be in Niagara Lake or Niagara Falls or Fort Erie. On the prostate one, I was out campaigning, trying to get reelected, and I knocked on some doors in Fort Erie, and a couple men had said, and I was surprised by this, they said to me, I can't afford to pay for the prostate testing. By the time I pay my rent and my groceries, I got nothing left.
Probably broke your heart.
And they asked me, and I said that at the doorstep, I said, well, if I get reelected, I will make sure I bring this up. I make sure I'll continue to bring it up until we get it covered. So it actually came from somebody that I knocked on a door with that told me that he couldn't afford to get the testing done, and So
and then you kind of dug deeper. Then when you suddenly have the numbers that back that it's actually saving the government money to put the 3 out and save the 57, then you have that tenfold. That it's in volumes now. That this is let's make more people aware and believe in the idea that this makes sense both for us and the government.
It now makes so much sense for Wayne to get a podcast. It makes so much sense now. I would love it because you could just talk about this stuff all day. And I'd be loving spitting out these statistics. Honestly,
I think it's interesting now to talking about all the information that you do receive, and it's amazing to hear that story because it's so important to listen to each person because you never know what they're going through. And you never know if you'll go through it, right? You never know if one of your loved ones will go through it. So maybe they're a stranger today, but you have to put yourself in another person's shoes. You have to put it, sometimes think about it on your family and, the stress that could cause, the heartaches that could cause. And especially if that's something that you can change and impact change, and it's something that you feel is important. So I just love knowing that you are receiving information all the time, but you also take that time to really hear people out, because I think that probably aligns you a bit in terms of what you're fighting for the most is what makes the most sense to the community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the other big thing that's happened through COVID is what's happened to our moms, our dads, our aunts, our uncles, brothers and sisters in long-term care facilities, where 5,400 have died from COVID. And if you're in a public system or one by the regent, you're probably going to have better outcomes. But if you're in a private home, 78% of the private homes is where everybody was dying in. So out of the 5,400, 3,800 of them may be still here today if we did it properly. And that came from, to your point, these are stats we're going through, but then all of a sudden, my grandmother and my grandfather got sick, right? They didn't get COVID, but they ended up in a either retirement home or long-term care facility. And then you saw that dying all around them, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying, we've got to do better. It should be about care. And the reason why I raise seniors so much is that I always look at seniors built our province.
Yeah.
They built our country. And when they're in their their last few years, they should be treated with respect. They should be get the care that they deserve, that they've earned, by the way, by taking care of us, and then we're going to take care of our kids, and they're going to take care of their kids.
They kind of wrote the manuscript, like where,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And people we take advantage of that. I think back to one time in Australia, they have a little bit more pressure to speak English. So I do have, I have an Italian family too. Wayne, we had a little joke about, but we had some relatives that they spoke English a little bit better. And I'm just across from the table, and all the young relatives are going, why is he sticking around with the seniors, right? But I'd never heard any of these stories. And they were the manuscript of my family heritage.
Yeah.
And, if you're discounting those, like that's your backbone. We're talking about, I bring in real estate a little bit here, but we're talking about a time where we have a lot of agricultural zoning, but we had a lot of farming at one point. Right? We had a lot of different crops. We had a lot of different hobby farms. We had a lot of things going on. And they've been almost pushed out by inflation prices and cost of things like that. And, sometimes hearing their stories and hearing the unique stories of people that go unheard, it definitely shapes you. And it's so important. If you're going to understand Niagara, you've got to get the manuscript, right?
No.
Yeah.
No. And the farming part is so important to us. And I say this at Queen's Park all the time as they're trying to build homes on our greenbelt, which is the biggest mistake we can make. I can't say it enough. Bill 23 is wrong on doing that. Do we need housing? Absolutely. Should we be building more housing? Absolutely. But we can build up to 2 million homes without touching the greenbelt. So why would you touch the greenbelt? And our farmland? If you live in a country as wealthy as Canada, and we're lucky, in Ontario, in particular Niagara, we have some of the best farmland in the world. And why would you not protect it? Did we not learn anything from COVID, where we didn't have any infrastructure, we didn't have the masks, we didn't have the gloves because they all came from China, and then we got stuck? Well, what's going to happen to us if we pave over all our farmland, get rid of our greenbelt, that protects our air and our water and our flooding? What's going to happen to our society when we're relying on other countries to feed us?
Exactly.
And I've always said, if you're a country that can't feed itself, you're going to be in trouble. So we should be doing everything we can collectively.
And the other thing is,
all levels of government.
Totally in agreement, and then some. It's one of my favorite areas on the planet too. It's a little known fact. I worked with wine for a while, and I appreciate the bench and the green belt quite a bit. But
you work with wine?
I did work with wine for 7 years. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So there's not much of it. There's not much of fruit. There's not that much fruitful soil in our quote unquote frozen tundra, right? So that's another reason why it's so important. It's not like we are taking some of this large piece of pie, right? There's really not that much. And if we want to talk about self-sufficiency, and we want to talk about value in land, that might not be actualized to its fullest right now, but is so important to have on hand. Whether it's now, whether it's grapes now, whether it's something else going forward. It's just, if you don't have that much fruitful land, you'd like to think that you covet what you do, right?
Oh yeah, you've got to protect it. That's the biggest thing. You got to protect it. We have to be a society that can feed ourselves, without a doubt. And we're heading into a situation now where 315 acres of prime farmland every day in the province of Ontario is being paved over. And if anybody can convince me that makes any sense at all, and I understand that some young farmers want to keep farming, some young farmers may want to do something else. We see the changing in and even the Italian society. The young people might not volunteer as much at Club Italia or whatever.
Right.
Doesn't mean they don't care about their culture. They're just so busy. Some are running 2 jobs. But we have to understand that we have to protect it.
So you said that was 315 acres a day.
A day.
That's extremely horrible. That land is never coming back.
And a natural resource is a natural resource once, right?
No, you're right.
And that's the problem.
I may be wrong, and people can correct me. I don't think whether you're a realtor or you're work in an auto plant or you work doing steel, I don't think anybody wants to pave over the green belt except a few developers that are going to make $1 billion on the land. I think realtors want to sell homes to young families at a reasonable price, provide that type of service. But I think they're saying the same thing I'm saying. We have an opportunity to build 2 million homes in Ontario, which would take care of our needs right now.
Let's think about where that green belt is, and you tell me that there's not that goal because we're close to the QEW. You tell me if the green belt was tucked away and nowhere near highways and off of a major artery of Ontario, that there'd be the interest in the real estate. It wouldn't be there.
Wouldn't be there.
So this is because it's prime real estate. It's not because they need it to be there. It can be anywhere. It can be just about anywhere. I totally agree. It's too much. It doesn't need to be right where it is. It can be anywhere. And are they, like, my thing that I've been fighting for is, what are they building? So our government doesn't build homes, okay? Let's not
That's right.
Let's not pretend here, right? The government does not build homes. They never will. So no offense to NDP or whoever, whatever the campaign is, you still rely on builders to build homes. And you still rely on a private builder to have interest in density. That's up to them. That's up to their private interest. They can get all the pressure and all the incentives that might come, but they don't have to. They're not forced to. There are some zones, I know Toronto has some areas you have to build up and this kind of thing, right? But if we're not there and they're not being forced to, like, all of those stipulations need to be down perfect. Not even for the Greenbelt, but for any. If we want to talk about what the homes we need, I think there's a big disconnect. I have to bring this up because we talked about it, between what's coming with real estate and the government platforms with real estate. I kind of unfortunately think they were written overnight and
back of a napkin,
right? And I think a lot of conscious realtors were looking at that going, that's not a solid plan. No. That's not a solid plan. Have you talked to your, major figures in real estate? Have you talked to people that care about their communities? If we're going to look at density, like, I get passionate about this because, I don't know, I feel like our foresight in Niagara is a little bit weak sometimes. We're still building these, they're beautiful on camera, but we're still building these massive bungalows and these retirement communities and this and that, but they're geared towards one type of buyer, one type of family or non-family, and it's not what's needed. Like, we need a whole community of houses that are a bit smaller, a bit more affordable, and that are more approachable. And until we get there, I don't think we have an answer.
Yeah, walkable communities where you can cycle and walk and get public transit. That's what we need. I agree 100% on that.
You got to limit the expenses and that kind of thing, and you kind of have an affordable lifestyle.
Yeah, nice community to live in. It's a good place to raise your family, work and play. All those things go together with livable communities in across the province.
Is that across platforms that you think that we'll see that approach? Is some of the walkable communities? Do you think is that across platforms? Or is that I just forgive my ignorance, or is that particular to NDP?
I think in fairness, I think there are probably some people with that are on all sides that thing. I'm not so sure that some of the leaders of thing that are making these decisions aren't looking at that. You know, the fight that you have to get bike lanes is look at the fight they had. Just you don't have to go to Toronto because everybody thinks Toronto with bike lanes. You go to St. Catharines, come to Niagara Falls on the fight that you get to get a bike lane, right? But that's the type of community young people want. They do not want to be driving cars. They want to be able to. Quite frankly, they want to do what we're doing. We're in the basement here of this place. They want to work from home, and still do a great job for whatever employer hires them. But they want to be home. The changing work style that we're coming to now is totally different from my generation, even to your generation, but to this next generation.
Oh, definitely.
It's definitely different, and they want livable communities, walkable communities with parks. And I think that's being threatened by some of the decisions that are being made by this current government. And I think it's a mistake.
That's one thing I actually really was hoping to connect, Wayne, is kind of the younger generation right now. And so they're really worried. There's a lot of fear there. What can we afford? What are we going to afford going forward? A lot of that to do with housing. I hear a lot of that, and I hear it wholeheartedly, and I believe it, and I see it. And
we both see it on a daily basis.
We live in that fear too, even though we operate under that career heading. We both live in that fear too because we see it, and its effects are widespread. So, in a generation, in the younger generation that's living in fear of what's coming next, how do you kind of stay positive in your efforts, and because you're met with a lot of fear and hesitation from the youth. And there's a lot of people thinking they're gonna die off, and I'm gonna be left with crap, and I'm gonna be left with an unaffordable community or an unaffordable area, or province, or even country. I guess how do we push for more, and what are the questions we can ask? What can we push for as citizens here?
Well, I'm going to tell you a story because I'm not so sure that it's about fear.
Right.
I take a look at young people that more from a positive standpoint. When I got elected as an MPP, I hired somebody who just got out of Brock and worked with me for 9 years. They were 24 years old. The next one I hired was 25. I have a young man that's here today. I think he's 26.
Shout out Quinn. 26?
Shout out to Quinn, yeah. But the reality is, there is so much talent out there with young people. Young people know where they want to go. The only thing I think that if I could encourage young people to do is take this opportunity and grab it. And the way to do that is you have to make sure that when election time comes, you're voting for people that are going to be a face and a voice for you to make your life better, to make your kids' life better. And I'd encourage young people to get out and vote. If there's one area, seniors vote, by the way. You can have the discussion, but we know seniors are going to vote. It looks like men in the middle class will vote, women will vote as well. But it's a young generation that's not voting yet. It's if you continue to elect people that make the same decisions over and over again that aren't going to help the next generation, we're in trouble. So the only thing I'd say to young people, I think they got lots of talent. I think they're smart. They're well educated. I mean, we have some of the best education in the world. Our education system's it's second to none in the world. Even though they're not investing like they should right now for the last few years, and they're attacking healthcare workers and teachers with different bills. But our healthcare and our education is the best in the world. Young people are very, very talented. I'll give you 3 instances in my case. I'm the face here. I get to talk, I get to think, but behind the scenes, to your point, you mentioned it earlier, they sometimes write out speeches. They're meeting with constituents every day. They're the ones that have the heart and the passion as well.
I've talked to your staff and met and talked to Josh, and I know Shannon really well, that worked with you closely, right? And I think that, they work closely with you and they see that you can actualize results with passion, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a reason. And, you lost 7 elections, okay? You lost 7 elections.
Cost your dad $700.
Yeah, it cost my dad $700. But no, you lost 7 elections. But look at what came from loss and win, that balance and staying on it, staying on this. And yeah, I think there's a big lesson there too. Just staying with it and knowing that in life you're going to handle some opposition. I've seen you talking to people, and it seems like they can't wait to rip you apart sometimes up in Ottawa, or they just think so differently, or they don't believe that the agenda's set that way, or the dollar should be spent that way. And there's obviously that opposition in that. So for young people that fear opposition and fear somebody kind of going against them or what they, we're trying to be a really embracing and welcoming community. Mm-hmm. But if there's a little bit of hesitation and fear in achieving your best self, and just handling that opposition, how do you go about that? You speak in front of people that, they can't wait to put you down or to put your point down.
Well, I'm not so sure that they're just waiting to put me down. I think, quite frankly, even in the opposition, I have some of the opposition will come up to me and say, You're right on point.
Nice.
That was a great speech. Like, I appreciate your point of view and your passion. That doesn't mean that if they get a chance to vote for me, they're going to vote for me. But the reality is, they respect the fact that I know what I'm talking about. I have passion. I'm as honest as the day is long. I'm not going to be up there just saying things for the sake of saying it.
Yeah.
I'm going to have facts that back up what I'm trying to do, particularly around healthcare, particularly around some of the bills that I think are like Bill 124 is the worst. Capping wages and those. I bring that, and I've had the opposition come to me and say it was very good. Quite frankly, more from the Greens and the Liberals and the Conservatives. But they do respect what we bring to the table. They don't always agree.
Yeah.
I'm an NDP or they're conservative. They're not always going to agree with me. But I think most of it's about respect. And I show respect to the opposition when they speak if they deserve it. Sometimes I don't believe they deserve it. So I might go after them. To your point,
Get a little fiery. Yeah.
Well, I get a little fiery, and I will say to the labor minister that you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You can't bring the notwithstanding clause and then say you're fighting for workers, right?
Yes.
I mean, it just doesn't work. I'm sorry, So I will raise those issues right to him. But the one thing I'll do is I'll say it when he's right there. I look right at him, and whatever I'm saying, I'm saying right to him, right?
I think
that's important.
In chopping up that is just like, so first of all, to anybody watching this, and how are you going to relate to Wayne? And I'm not making you ancient, okay?
I am. I don't have a problem with it.
I'm not making you ancient. No, I'm just saying. But how
I'm
am
a grandfather.
How am I going to relate to a grandfather?
bad.
The way to relate that is when you're handling opposition, when you can still have a safe argument, and that safe argument likely comes more often when you're passionate, and your passion meets your knowledge. If you want to be passionate, also be knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Know what you're getting into. Be a master of your craft and believe in what you're doing. And I love hearing that, to be honest. I wouldn't have guessed that.
You said something really interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. You said something really interesting, and it was just the word respect. And it was the context in which you used it, because I think that a lot of younger kids, they often confuse hard situations with lack of respect.
Right.
In reality, they're so completely separate, because I can have a fight with my sister or a friend or whatever. Doesn't mean that I don't respect them. And so at times I think that takes age. And I think that the younger people can start understanding that those two have to be separate. I think the easier it is.
That's
for them
almost
to move
like for Wayne,
too.
it's like we both want Ontario to be its best.
Yes.
But we see it happening different ways.
Yeah.
So that's why there's that safe argument of like, I can really respect what you've said there and your passion and your knowledge. And I think that when a safe argument happens or, is respected, an argument or a point is respected when you're both striving for, in this case, the success of Ontario and the country as a whole.
What are some things that you see coming up going, that's going to happen and I don't like it? Like, is there some things that we should be aware of as a community to sort of improve ourselves?
Well, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that's where I'd like to go in a question, because. But what I would like to say is that where do I think we're heading as a community or as a province? We have some challenges, and I've already said that around affordability. We've got to fix that. We've got to fix the housing crisis so that young people have hope in different type of housing settings as well, around affordability and type of homes. But I think going forward for Niagara Falls, there's a few things we have to make sure happen. We have to make sure that we get two-way all-day GO train to Niagara Falls.
Thank you.
It's a must.
So that young people can work in Toronto and still come home and travel. If you're on that train, you can actually do some work. We've learned that we don't have to be in the office to get work done over COVID.
Just to ask you, would that be a push for track, or would that just be more service?
More service.
More service. And then would you push for GO to purchase that via line back, or what would you say?
Well, that I wouldn't have enough expertise on what's the best way to do it when you're looking at that. So I
just
don't know,
more service in general.
But I know that to get the lines we need, you have to have agreements between CN and some other stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about right now we got 2 trips back and forth a day. Yeah. I say we need all day two-way GO train. Yeah. We are growing faster than we ever saw coming. Like if there's one thing that's happened over the last 5 to 7 years, everybody somehow all at once found out Niagara's a pretty good place to
Yeah,
live.
it's not bad.
Yeah. They got they got good infrastructure. They got the falls. They got the wine.
Yeah.
They got the golf courses.
Yeah.
They got the casino. It's a pretty good place to come and live. And it just looked like everybody from Brampton and Mississauga said, "Oh, where's this Niagara place?"
Yeah.
And they just started to come down to Niagara. So we have lots to offer, but I think two-way GO train is a must for us. We are going to get the new hospital. I'm disappointed that it's been a year wait. It was supposed to have shovels in the ground September 22. It looks like it's going to be next September.
What was there?
They
a
won't
reason?
tell me. They won't tell me that. I've sent letters off to the health minister.
Okay.
I've talked to Niagara Health. They were more open with some of the reasons that they think might have caused it, but nothing that I can say here on and say this is the reason why it was late. We need a hospital. We have a crisis in healthcare in Niagara. So we need to build that new hospital. But once the hospital gets built, if you take a look at what happened to St. Catharines, that hospital, everybody went, "Oh my God, it's out in 4th Street." Well, look what's happened around it.
Yeah.
Around it,
Thriving
the
businesses.
infrastructure, the businesses,
It
the
creates
jobs.
and it attracts.
You know what? It creates almost a city among themselves. And I think because it's going to be a state-of-the-art hospital, it's going to 169 more beds than St. Catharines has. I think that area of the city is going to have a lot of houses built. But I also think that it's going to become a healthcare hub. Where more and more young, talented people are going to want to come to this new hospital.
Yeah.
I think that's really good for Niagara for a couple of reasons. One, it's good for us as we get older. We got a place where we can go, and it's got state-of-the-art healthcare. But it also gives an opportunity for young people who are thinking of moving to Niagara. One of the reasons why they come is healthcare. Or seniors, it's healthcare.
Or even the prospect of those jobs too within that healthcare community, right?
Yeah,
the jobs that come along with it. Yeah.
Half decent paying jobs. So I think as I look at where we're going to be in 10 years, there's a couple of things that I think if we want to get to where we think we're going to be as a community, I think GO Train, the hospital are two of the big ones, and we have to make sure we protect what we have here. Obviously, with the tourist sector, it's 40,000 people are tied to tourism. We have to find a way to embrace the tourism, make sure we support it, knowing that sometimes that's not always the case in Niagara, but tourism is very, very important to us. Make sure we're protecting our casinos, where those people get paid a fair wage. I think they're certainly more than what is the average in Niagara. So they're good jobs. Got to make sure that we protect those jobs. So going forward, we've got really good opportunity. But hospital, GO Train. If you want to grow, we need to GO Train. I can't, and I'm arguing with that.
I've said,
they said in the budget yesterday they're going to continue to do the trial process for 2 days. We got to expand it.
The topic at this point, to be honest with you, it's been going on. You've heard the rhetoric behind it for so many years. And you feel that at this point there would have been some progress made,
Well, what happened,
because there's been so much talk
I'm going to
behind
just
it, right?
take a little cloak off maybe, is from my understanding, and it's decent because I was pretty upset. I was excited. I was like a lot of people when we announced the GO in Niagara Falls. Really excited. We have limited service. We do not own the track on the way back. So it costs them a considerable amount on the way back when you take that train each and every time. So you're paying CN or VIA every time. So obviously it wasn't making sense in terms of numbers, getting around that obstacle. But I feel like what we did was we maybe promoted the GO too soon without having the infrastructure, without having a really major change. So we said it's an option. And we kind of, it was a quick option. I would love to see it become a set option, something people can count on, like you're talking about, like this set service. What would I push for? But I know there's too much cost there. I think we need track. I think the track needs to come this way. I think about, we have room for universities. We have room for healthcare. We have room for hospitals. And with that room, if the track comes down this way, we have this job access from Niagara to North Toronto, right? From our universities. we start making our own doctors. We start having within the country people coming here, whether they're international students or our own or students that started here. We are striving towards working within our GO train line.
Absolutely.
We've been talking for the past 15 years, and we have a lot of really great people on this street trying to revitalize Queen Street. There's a lot of people who've dedicated literally their lives to revitalizing that area, and they're trying their best. And I feel like that would be a saving grace for all those people who had invested so much time and money into making Queen Street better every day, you know? And I would love to see it succeed.
Every place, I guess the closest place is Burlington.
Yep.
I guess go take a look at what's happened to that area, and the number of it's just booming. Whether it be plazas, whether it be housing. I think when this does happen, and I think it's going to happen. I don't have a lot of details around the track. That part I'm buying it, but when we get two-way all day, that same thing that happened in Burlington is going to happen here in the Falls. They've gotten ready for it. You've got the roundabout that you saw, the Regent. I think the city paid some, but I'm not sure who paid for it. But we've got the roundabout already starting. They've already got the roads cut out for the new homes that are going to come in coming down this way. It's just going to take off. And to your point, when that happens, Queen Street will be a
hub,
a place where people are going to want to come. They're going to have some nice restaurants.
Well, the university coming out this way too.
The university's going to Acres next year. I don't have a lot of I don't have all the details.
Same.
When do the international students come? And obviously international students come and they're spending money down on Queen Street.
But that will create a beautiful mix of sort of like a lot of different, I feel like, restaurants and things like that too. There's going to be a sort of cultural influence down here, which you're not going to get from going over to where the casinos are in the main sort of downtown areas, you would say.
You hit right on one of the things that is really wonderful that's going on in Niagara Falls is all the different cultures that are coming to Niagara Falls.
So many.
It's so great.
Beautiful.
It's making us such a wonderful community with all the different cultures. And the nice thing is they still celebrate their culture. They celebrate our country as Canada, but they're still celebrating with culture events and all the other things that go with it, with food and
it's been amazing to watch Niagara just diversify, right?
And that's here's the coolest part about
it.
it though too, is that when I grew up in a very Italian household. Club Italia was like my second home. Yeah. And the funny part about it is, so for anyone who's been here, the sort of local Niagara Falls native, if you look at all these new people coming in, if the person does look at it in any negative way, go, well, you've probably been to Club Italia before, haven't you? Right? So, and it's like, so we just accept them with open arms, and there should never be a time when like that's like ever looked down upon, because like it's just something that's so blatantly Niagara Falls to do, is to showcase that area of your environment.
Instead of thinking about it as these people are choosing Niagara Falls to live in, and they're embracing it. Yeah. And they are, growing, they're making it better.
They're just making it better.
And it's great if people are opening their arms to your community, then it's always going to make it better, right?
Oh yeah, I've gone to a lot of events, lots of fun, wonderful people. They're making our community better, making our community thrive. We have a lot of people that come from all over the world now. They're working as PSWs, they're working as teachers, they're working as doctors. They're making our community better, and it's just going to continue to grow because of it. So I think we should all be thrilled about that.
It's amazing.
I like that. On that positive note, Wayne, I'm going to let you go to your day. Appreciate you coming in so much. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you for being here.
Should you need any help, Quinn, Wayne, when you get to shooting your podcast, because we'll tune in. We'll be there, and know that we champion your causes as well. We support you wholeheartedly in everything that you do in your endeavors, and you're an inspiration. You really are, and those aren't just words. We watch you, and we want to be like you. We really do. So know that
you want to be 5'0".
I want to be 5'0". I want to fit in. I want to fit into that.
I think that's a stretch.
I haven't fit in a bathtub since grade 6, so so that would be
Trust
nice.
me, there are certain things to be said about always sticking out as the head over top of everyone else in pictures.
But we help each other. No, I think back to you and my dad and some of those conversations. But no, Wayne, all seriousness, thank you. And really though, amazing what you're doing. Keep it up. And just fight the good fight like you are. And we'll keep supporting you as much as we can and in any way.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Great time.
Thanks.